EDE is a course which has been offered in many communities around the planet.
Ecovillage Design Education to me personally was an opportunity to intensely explore my place in Auroville.
For me at least, a very intellectual curiosity about what it meant to go through a 5-week process. It evolved into, I'm going to get all these tools to help me in my future goal towards community building.
It's more like a community building. For me, that's what ED is about. It's like how to build a community and to look at the different aspects of a community building.
It's an intensive experience of looking at sustainability on a dimensional level, perspectives of ecological, social, economic, and cultural worldview sustainability.
Auroville had so much to offer that actually we had so many different teachers for all of these topics. And using Auroville's expertise and history to learn Ecovillage design. So for me, Auroville is really a laboratory that aids the learning of all of these concepts. And we had so many wonderful teachers coming.
So it's looking from those different perspectives and also taking all of those into account for some practice in integrated design, for bringing all those together to actually design a project that one wants to bring into the world.
So just being able to look at where we are through different lenses of economy or ecology or worldview and appreciate the wealth of knowledge and experience that exists.
To sort of know where we are, you've come to a physical place of Pitchandikulam, and a lot of you know Auroville, some of you don't know Auroville, which is spread out over 25 square kilometers. But you come to a physical place, but I think what I wanted to share was you're coming to a body of memories and history. We are nearly 50 years. I hope in these weeks we're going to learn a lot from you. It's a point in my life I'd like to change. I've always liked to change. I'd like to start something different. I'm even a bit sort of tired of some of the patterns you get into. You do get into patterns. Some of this was, you can imagine how nostalgic we are sometimes. Oh wow, you remember, because all those images, millions and millions of images are there. You can get stultified, you can get locked into something that maybe you'd like to move to another level. And that I'm hoping in these weeks we'll look at that together.
So it was very important for us to have a very diverse pool of participants, to enable international participants to come to Auroville with a purpose, as much as Aurovillian participants to attend a course that would inform their lives about the place they live and what they can potentially bring into Auroville. So we aimed at having a third of the participants from Auroville or its nearby region, and to have a third from Asia, so that we may have connected them to the wider Asian network, and as well a third from all around the world.
EDE and similar courses have been held in Auroville several times before, often inviting student groups from outside. So the entire objective of this course was to make it accessible to Aurovillian youth. And I think it gives a lot to the community, because Aurovillian youth are re-inspired to live here. They understand and connect to the dream of the Shervino and the mother, but also to their parents and their reason for coming to this community. So it's a huge contribution in that sense, because it re-educates our coming generations to their purpose and their sense of place.
So that was a lot of young people who came together with the intention to learn and look at their own community and the region in a new light. So the educational experience I mentioned before of seeing Auroville in a new way. And so we tried to give that immersive experience where they could say, you know, they grew up here, but they need to look at it again and see where they live.
And by creating such a diverse pool of participants, the participants themselves were informing each other about eco-village practices, because we had at least 5 participants already living in other eco-villages, not from Auroville. And these 7 or 8 Aurovillian participants informed these other students about Aurovillian practices in a very informal way, so that the diversity that we speak in community about embracing diversity was present in the group as a real exercise.
And also a huge age range from 62 or 63 to 17. And so that made a very diverse group, which was beautiful and also at many times challenging. We had such a range of experience in education and background, and also cultural background, that there were clear points of just like, wow, couldn't be more divided on how we think about this or what we want in a given situation.
We had 2 very different groups of people coming. People who were born here and people who went. And that means that to cater to the needs of both groups involves, in some ways, reducing the complexity of the what could be done. And I feel very much a strong need to see how it would have evolved if it was just a local group or just an international group. But it's hard because part of the beauty of the course was putting both groups of people together. But I want to experiment and see. And I think part of this course is that it is a beautiful experiment where you put 36 people together for 5 weeks. So.
We visited so many places and we met a lot of different people offering the ideas of the course, of the overall framework. We did Social Week first to get people into a group and see what it is to live together.
My place is in community and I want to learn how to make the best of it.
How does Auroville do it? How does the region, how does India and the Tamil Nadu and the bioregion that we're in apply these ideas? And where are the points that we're still learning as a society and culture and different cultures?
What are the learnings from the way traditional Indian society in terms of rural communities and how it is organized, and how these learnings could become some building blocks or could supply some building blocks for newer forms of institutions being created.
How can I make a mirror from Tamil culture, which is the most oldest culture in the world, and French culture, where I come from?
Our work on this in this particular class was to explore gender and the challenges that women go through in developing their leadership identities.
I would like to know how to build a community, how do people live in a community.
The time I spent with the EDE students today was talking about conflict and conflict resolution and the dynamics of what is conflict in our lives and communities.
If you don't have social fabric that holds your community together and tools for working together and learning through conflict and coming through conflict and staying together as a community, you don't have much to stay together as a community for. It's going to fall apart, and then you don't have the very system of human habitation that you're trying to build.
So in Ecology Week, we looked at how communities engage with the environment around them, what responsibilities humans should take to relate with nature in a healthy and sustainable way.
My primary motivation was to learn more about permaculture because I'm working in a farm that practices permaculture.
Nature is already perfect. There's nothing we can do to improve upon nature. Like you can do 5, 10 PhDs, but you'll never know how to make this tree. I'm looking for real solutions in Auroville of how to get people involved in their local food. The society that doesn't know where its food comes from is a society without culture, and humanity without culture is going to perish.
When we look at ecological, all of these are very important. So we look at food, water, and energy autonomy, how these are happening in the community of Auroville, what are past systems that have functioned.
So practically we went to see farms to understand food as well as natural cycles. We went to see places where they work with natural building, bamboo and earth construction. Different styles so that people may see the positives of going academic and well-structured, but at the same time going experimental in other situations and trying out new things.
I didn't have a clear picture of what sustainability is. We just knew about building being sustainable, but a life being sustainable, I want to learn that.
Everything around the week was how to use natural resources in a way that helps the planet, helps the people and society as a whole.
The economic week, where we looked at the current system, the current capitalist system that's dominant on this planet, and how destructive it is and how it feeds a whole way of being which is extractive, and then looked at what are the other models that we need to look at and shift over to, and how are places like Auroville and other possible systems being created in the world that can actually be functional, sustainable models. Capitalism is based on continuous growth, and that's clearly not possible. So what is something that is possible?
One of the things to join ED was like economy, how the Auroville economy system works.
Really interesting about Auroville and that what we could bring in the ED on the economical aspect is that almost all the different types of economy we know now in the world are represented here in Auroville. So it was an amazing kind of exhibition hall for the students to go from a real classical economy, and which is also like tuned with the global economy that as we know it now, and to go towards more local and alternative, and also looking at the different tools that the alternative economy has, such as alternative currency, which is not yet implemented in Auroville, but Auroville has experience with alternative currency.
To see that there are so many hidden structures in the world, things that we just think they are like this and always have been, but really they are not.
First step to go somewhere. If you see economy and the problem about sustainability in a very simple way, you will probably not reach very far. You have to understand the complexity and then act from there.
If you don't have economic sustainability, how do you function and continue to function as a community? And then we moved into the worldview and the cultural dimension, where we looked at what are the background thoughts and ideas and perceptions of the way we live in the world that allow us to create the system that we're in now, and what is the change that needs to happen to allow us to shift. That was also looking at holistic worldview and human health and planetary health, and how these are all interlinked, and also the connection with nature and reconnecting with the natural world. All of these are intrinsic and necessary.
How to help people to have three important connections in their life. One is connecting with themselves, connecting with others, and connecting with the nature.
Whatever is it that's happening in you, whenever you do whatever, and how whatever you do has an effect in every part of you, and to be aware of that. Awareness through the body, because we use the body and the sensations that we have to become aware of everything, of all the rest, of the mind, of the emotions, or the connection with our inner self.
Also, a worldview that is sustainable needs to be created in order to actually allow for all the other aspects to come together. If the worldview is still in the old paradigm and still thinking that there's scarcity and that we need to be fighting each other for limited resources on this planet, and that we are not connected to nature, that we're separate, humans are inherently going to fight with each other, etc., that's how we're going to live. And so how do we start shifting that worldview towards something new, towards building a different way that humans can live?
Which, in my opinion, are the only ways to lead us to a new culture, a new civilization. That world is in deep need and urgency.
Helping the group to understand how to transition out of an emergency and how to build inner resilience to avoid a loss of energy during an emergency situation.
So finally, our last week was based in pulling all this together and designing a system that we could practice with. And so the participants broke into smaller groups.
And we chose to use the dragon dreaming method, which brings in dreaming, planning, doing, and celebrating. And so we brought the group through this process, introducing them to 25% of celebrating, which is often missed in project design.
What are the essential things that need to be done before doing a project? So dreaming a project in a successfully way, so that when you do it, it won't fail.
I wanted to hear so many people's stories, new stories, old stories, and give a chance for more stories to grow.
I came here to learn tools to change the world to a better place.
Personally interested in the Ecovillage movement, and I'm interested in implementing what I learn here at the course at my Ecovillage.
For me, this ED is about learning about Auroville example in this way, and I'm very fascinated, especially with an attempt to be more as an urbanized place.
I live in Auroville, but I never saw the many place. But whenever I join the ED, I see the many place. I learn a lot of things.
This is the human adventure that is the very precious aspect of this EDE for me. I have the feeling that now, knowing all those people, there's a lot that can go on after the EDE, especially with the community project that we have together.
But in the end, it just became a very intense space where I learned not so much from the content, which was very valuable, but more through a group process, and to realize that you can't really learn about Ecovillage design in any meaningful way in a 5-week course, but you learn a lot about the complexity of it and perhaps even where to start.